The focus of Chapter 6 is physical activity and exercise. So we start with the cardiovascular system and the cardiorespiratory system, and we talk about muscle function, physical activity recommendations, and the benefits of physical activity. And studying along with this chapter, I recommend that you work through the learning objectives that are in Moodle. The cardiorespiratory system includes the blood, heart, blood vessels, and the lungs. So we'll take a look at each component. The components of the blood include the plasma, which is 90% water, and the cells of the blood, which are erythrocytes, which are red blood cells which carry oxygen, and leukocytes, which function in our immunity. The functions of blood are summarized. They help regulate our body temperature, they regulate acid-base balance, and they transport oxygen, nutrients, and hormones to other parts of the body. The cardiorespiratory system includes the heart, and the anatomy of the heart is explained in your textbook. There are 4 chambers, 2 atria and 2 ventricles. The right side of the heart, which you see pictured here, showing the blood flow through the pulmonary and systemic circulation. The right side of the heart is responsible for providing or pumping blood through the lungs or through the pulmonary circulation, while the left side of the heart is responsible for pumping blood through the rest of the body, or what we call systemic circulation. Oxygen-rich blood is transported via the left side of the heart to the entire rest of the body, everything outside of the lungs. So the ventricles are the part of the heart that contract in order to pump blood. The left ventricle is the strongest part of the heart. It is the strongest muscle because it has to pump blood at a very high rate in order to get it to systemic circulation. So if you have right-sided heart failure, you're going to have problems with your lungs, fluid buildup, coughing, wet cough. If you have problems with the left side of your heart, you're going to have problems with fluid buildup in your extremities, other parts of the body. The term myocardium is used to refer to the actual heart muscle. Be aware of systemic versus pulmonary blood circulation. The left side of the heart is responsible for systemic, while the right side is responsible for pulmonary circulation. Cardiac output is represented by the letter Q. The average healthy adult male has a Q of about 5 milliliters per minute. The cardiac output, Q, is equal to the stroke volume of the heart. This is the amount of blood that the heart pumps with every beat, times the heart rate, which is the number of beats that occur in 1 minute. The sinoatrial node is used to refer to the pacemaker of the heart. You can look at the electrical activity of the heart on an electrocardiogram or ECG. An optimal cardiac output for an adult is about 5 milliliters per minute, or Q equal to 5. In order to obtain the cardiac output value, you need to multiply the stroke volume times the heart rate. The stroke volume is the volume of blood that is ejected from the left ventricle with each heartbeat, and it is measured in milliliters per beat. Heart rate refers to the number of heartbeats that occur every minute. Here's a closer look at the cardiorespiratory system. The right side of the heart is responsible for pumping blood through the lungs,
where it picks up oxygen, brings it back to the left side of the heart. It flows into the left ventricle. The left ventricle contracts and pushes blood throughout the rest of your body systems.
The blood vessels include the arteries, arterioles, venules, veins, and capillaries. Capillaries are the smallest vessel. Gas and nutrient exchange can occur in the capillaries. The arteries are thick-walled blood vessels. When the left ventricle contracts, a pressure is exerted on the blood vessels. You can measure the systolic pressure using a sphygmomanometer, just discussed later. Diastolic blood pressure measures the resistance on blood vessels when the heart relaxes or the left ventricle relaxes. The arterioles are smaller than arteries. They are lined with smooth muscle cells capable of vasoconstriction and vasodilation. Venules carry deoxygenated blood. They empty into veins. The cardiorespiratory system includes the lungs. A healthy male has an average lung capacity of about 5.7 liters of air, while a healthy young woman has a lung capacity of about 4.2 liters of air. The lungs are responsible for oxygen delivery. The route that the air travels is pictured on the next slide. Air enters from the mouth or the nose into the trachea, which is also known as our windpipe. The trachea branch into bronchi, which branch into bronchioles, which branch into alveoli, where gas is exchanged.
The skeletal system consists of our bones. Within our skeletal system, we have two types of bones. Cortical bone, which is compact, dense bone, which makes up 80% of our skeleton, and trabecular bone. This is the porous, spongy bone. It's the inner part of bone and is found in the shafts of long bones. Bone density is influenced by bone remodeling that occurs throughout life, and nutrition, physical activity, and hormones affect our bone density. Ligaments holds bones together and protects cartilage, while cartilage covers and protects the ends of bones.
In all, there are 3 types of muscles to be found in the human body. They include smooth muscle, cardiac muscle, and skeletal muscle. Skeletal muscle can make up 30 to 45% of adult body weight and is responsible for our posture and body movements. Regular physical activity can strengthen your skeletal muscle system. The skeletal muscle system includes muscle fibers. Within each muscle fiber are myofibrils, which are strands of contractile protein. Within the myofibrils are filaments, which are proteins. Examples of filaments include actin and myosin. The muscle fibers connect to our nervous system by neurons. We have sensory neurons, which are responsible for transmitting information from the muscles to the central nervous system, and motor neurons, which carry information from the central nervous system to the muscle.
Here is a picture from your textbook that breaks down the organization of skeletal muscle. Muscle fibers can differ. There are slow twitch muscle fibers, also known as type 1 muscle fibers, that have a very high aerobic capacity and slow to tire. Fast twitch muscle fibers, or type 2 muscle fibers, have a low aerobic capacity but a very high anaerobic capacity. FOG stands for fast oxidative glycolytic, and FG stands for fast glycolytic. The fast oxidative glycolytic fibers can behave aerobically or anaerobically, depending on energy needs at the moment. You can train, and training can enhance either glycolytic or oxidative capacity of each fiber type, but you can't convert one to another. We're genetically designed, or it's written into our DNA, the types of muscle fibers that we're born with. Slow twitch is type 1, while fast twitch is type 2. Type 2 muscle fibers can be type 2A or type 2B. And it refers to how well your body or the cells function either aerobically or anaerobically. When muscles contract, the filaments in each muscle fiber will move past each other. There are two types of skeletal muscle contraction. There's dynamic contraction and static contraction. The muscle changes length in dynamic contraction. With static contraction, the muscle length doesn't change. You can develop something called muscle trigger points. A lot of people have trigger points. Most people probably have trigger points. These are points in the muscle where blood flow is restricted. It can reduce muscle endurance, can cause neurological symptoms like numbness, tingling, usually cause referred pain. The picture here shows, the X's show the site of a trigger point, while the red area shows the site of pain or discomfort associated with that trigger point. We have trigger points all over our body, causing pain in different places. Okay. The next section focuses on the benefits of an active lifestyle. There are many cardiorespiratory and musculoskeletal benefits for being active, exercising longer. That may include a longer life and may improve mental health to some extent. Application 6.1 is optional but helpful. It is review of the calculation of Q, or our stroke volume, and heart rate, cardiac output. The benefits of being physically active are outlined here. It may include stronger heart muscle, improved coronary blood flow, lower systolic blood pressure, which can reduce your risk for early onset Alzheimer's, reduce risk for, not eliminate. It may increase blood volume being active. It may improve lung volume and the capacity to transport oxygen in the blood. Additionally, cardiorespiratory endurance can be improved by having an active lifestyle. Your lipid levels, your HDL and LDL, may improve, and it can lower your risk for cardiovascular disease, which is the number one cause of death. There are a number of musculoskeletal improvements that occur with a healthy lifestyle, which include hypertrophy of muscle, which is increased muscle mass, increased bone density, and improved flexibility. Reductions in abdominal fat may be associated with increased physical activity and may improve insulin resistance, lipid profile, and weight regain or adipocyte refilling, assuming that you are in energy balance. Other benefits of physical activity that may not have been mentioned include improved ability to tolerate glucose, improved pregnancy outcomes, healthier aging, improved mental health, reduced mortality, and the prevention of obesity and its comorbidities in children. Physical activity can be assessed clinically using activity questionnaires, electronic devices, or physical activity records. You can record your own physical activity using smartwatch or inputting into one of these popular apps. The cost of activity or the number of calories burned by a person can be estimated, and that estimate of the cost of an activity is called metabolic equivalent or metabolic equivalence. One metabolic equivalent equal to resting metabolic rate is about 1 calorie per kilogram of body weight that's burned or used per hour. An analysis of metabolic equivalence can be used to estimate total daily caloric expenditure. However, there are some limitations. Accuracy can be tricky. Electronic devices can be used to measure activity, which may include pedometers, which are inexpensive, but if you can keep one on for longer than an hour, one of those ones you put them on your belt, good luck. Accelerometers can be used. They measure how fast you're going and can assess the intensity and duration of an activity. Smartwatch is a good way to get motivated. Fitbit is an example. Apple Watch to help motivate you. There's a physical activity assessment that is optional, application 6.2 in your textbook. It asks you to keep an activity record for one typical day and then estimate the cost of these activities using metabolic equivalence. In assessing physical fitness, I'm not sure if you kids have physical fitness tests anymore in the middle school. We used to. There are some standardized physical fitness tests that are used to assess the ability to perform everyday tasks. There is health-related physical fitness, which can be used to measure aspects of fitness that contribute to health, and physiologic fitness, which measure metabolic improvements that may lower risk of chronic disease. Fitness tests can provide baseline for fitness status or a point at which to improve. Can help people set realistic goals. It can help maintain appropriate body composition, improve muscular fitness, flexibility, and cardiorespiratory endurance. Blood pressure is measured in millimeters of mercury. A stethoscope is used to listen to the sounds made by blood vessels, while a cuff is pumped with air around a person's arm. Be familiar with the classification of normal blood pressure. Normal blood pressure is defined as a systolic blood pressure less than 120 millimeters of mercury, and a diastolic blood pressure less than 80 millimeters of mercury. Prehypertension is defined as a systolic pressure of 120 to 139 and a diastolic blood pressure of 80 to 89. Stage 1 hypertension is defined as a systolic blood pressure between 140 and 159 and a diastolic blood pressure of 90 to 99. The systolic blood pressure measures the pressure on the blood vessels when the heart is pumping, and the diastolic measures the amount of pressure on blood vessels when the heart is filling.
VO2 max is considered the most accurate measurement of cardiovascular endurance. It is measured in a lab or a clinic usually. Rarely is it used in a non-clinical type setting. An individual will be hooked up to a mask which is capable of measuring gas exchange. A person will be exposed to increasing levels of exercise intensity, usually on a treadmill, and the point at which the oxygen intake levels off despite an increase in the intensity of the exercise is measured as the VO2 max. We know from research that there is a direct relationship between heart rate and oxygen consumption. And so VO2 max can be calculated from heart rate during exercise. There are a number of estimates of VO2 max for different ages and different genders. There is a field test for cardiorespiratory endurance that is outlined in your book. It's called the 1 mile fitness walking test. It doesn't require any special equipment. You just need a way to time yourself with a stopwatch. You can use your phone. VO2 max is expressed in milliliters of oxygen consumed for every kilogram of body weight for every minute of exercise. This equation requires you to walk a mile, and then you can input your weight, age, indicate gender using a 0 or 1, and the time it takes to walk in minutes and seconds to the nearest tenth of a minute, and heart rate taken during the final minute of the 1 mile walk.
Body composition can be measured using various tools like skin fold measures, bioelectrical impedance analysis, and underwater weighing. We have two different types of fat, essential fat and storage fat, we talked about in a previous chapter. There are tables for assessing muscular fitness. The bench press measures upper body strength. Measure of hand strength can be done by a grip dynamometer. Flexibility is specific to each joint, and it can be measured using a goniometer, which measures joint range of motion. There are also field tests of flexibility. I remember you doing these in PE when I was in middle school. There was a sit and reach test.
This is a chart that indicates the degree of hamstring flexibility based on age using the sit and reach test, and they have charts for males and females. This chapter contains a lot of information. Make sure you read through it and let me know if you have any questions.